Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Brian. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right,
Good. You have a
except
good
I'm
weekend?
What's that?
Did you have a good weekend?
Oh, yeah. Just a
You
minute.
said you yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Are you not tangled anymore?
I'm not. No, I couldn't function. No, the weekend was fine.
Good. I always like good weekends. It felt like it took a long time to get through it, and I loved it. I loved this. I love slow weekend.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's gonna
Well,
start
so
getting hot though.
it is. It's going to be really hot this next weekend. I'm kind of excited about that, though. I'm ready for the warmer. I'm going to stain this week my fence starting
Yeah,
Friday. So
yeah. We stained our fence when it was really warm, and we just the south side where it got a little extra heat, kind of it just dried differently.
yeah,
Should have done that a different like earlier in the day. I think we were trying to, but it just still didn't work.
yeah, I use a almost like a weighted stain, almost like a waxy stain. I have to stain once a year because I use this kind of stain, but it is the most beautiful color in the world, and so I don't mind it because it looks beautiful for about 7 months and then it starts to fade. So I'll deal with it, but it doesn't. Hot or cold, we're good to go. So
Yeah. Well, we should probably give people a little bit more time. There's only four of us. Is Joe there with you?
Joe is not. I don't know where he's at. I don't know why he didn't join. I could have sworn I sent him the thing. Let me pause real quick and I'll call upstairs. Yeah, he's getting on right now. Getting on right now.
Well, we might be a small group. We got Austin. That's what's most important.
That is all that matters.
Stop.
You didn't realize you had such an important role, Austin.
But just because I'm the most vocal, I
Uh,
mean, anybody else could have opinions and take my spot at the top.
We'll go down the hall, knock on Courtney's door. Courtney, I love Courtney to death. She does not hold back at all, which is great.
Yes.
That's what we need.
well, why don't we? Well, maybe I'll wait for Joe. Joe's getting on, and we'll wait just a little bit more time. This should be a quick session, hopefully.
I think I got another email from um, uh, Rebecca this weekend. So
Oh, she didn't send. Okay.
no,
Well,
she didn't comment. It was about our emergency management plan.
oh,
So,
yeah.
but so smart lady.
Well, we'll get to her comments.
Yeah. And here comes Joe.
Recording in progress.
Well, we got a small group, but we'll get going. Maybe others will join us. This should be a relatively short session, hopefully. So we won't keep you a whole hour and a half, but I will share my screen. Oh, somewhere. guess this try this. There. Does everybody see my PowerPoint presentation? I'm gonna assume you do.
Looks
Good,
good.
okay.
So far,
Yeah.
Cynthia.
Great, thanks. For those who are in attendance, if you could just put your name and affiliation in the chat, that would be great. So we have record of that. Okay, so today it's meeting number 9, almost done, hopefully. So today we're just gonna go over some brief updates, in particular the meeting notes from the last meeting, and then we're gonna look at the public engagement comments and then plan maintenance, plan implementation. So I sent out the last meeting notes from May 31st. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at them. We did go over the mitigation action plan. We did some prioritization of mitigation actions. That was our main thing. So I don't know if anybody has any suggestions, changes, or if you want to move to adopt.
I didn't see any changes, Cynthia. I don't know if Zach or anybody else did, but I moved to adopt the meeting notes.
Anybody want to second that?
I can second.
Thanks, Austin. And we'll count that as approval. Thank you. Okay, moving on. So we did public outreach. Now our timing, we didn't get the social media posting out quite at the same time as everything was posted online. So our comments just came in at different times. We did for the risk assessment and then litigation strategy, which pretty quick turnaround time after that. But we did get some comments, and I wanted to go over those and just kind of figure out what plan of action we want to take for them, what kind of resolution. And let me see if I can bring those up right now. I sent out a revised list this morning. And let me see, I got to move my images around here. So hopefully that's big enough for everybody to see. Actually, do this. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we got a fair amount of comments. Some of them I think were not applicable, like the first two. You will see on my spreadsheet that I think the first two were in relationship to another social media posting done by the city of Salem. I have on that third column for notes, I just put no action, but if somebody do something in our risk assessment about hazard trees, I think in the risk assessment, we do call out some of the programs that are in place for the city of Salem. So I don't know if this is necessary to call out in the plan, but wanted to get people's feedback for at least these first two comments.
I would agree that that had to do with something else that the city has done.
Yep.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen okay? Is it big enough that because hopefully you can see my my notes just on the far right side. It's kind of cut off, but you can kind of see what I started with. But if you can't, let me know. Bridget Good sent in quite a few comments, and just a little background. She had a lot of great specific comments that made me think that she was possibly a subject expert. However, she didn't state that. She has standing as being a City of Salem resident, which is fine, but it's always helpful to know where this person's coming from. So I did a little Google search and discovered that she works for Oregon Department of Emergency Management as one of their administrative assistants. So this could be where some of her knowledge is coming from. A lot of her comments, I think, are worthy of looking into and changing. And we can go through these. Some of them, like this first one, I had put over here, you can't see it entirely. It says research and consider revising. So comments like this where she's pointing out a correction in the data that we have there, I think that's fine. I think it's DLCD has a more concern of this gray area of where somebody that we work with at OEM is providing comments and which role are taking in this case. But that's something that we'll be addressing at our level. But for the City of Salem, I think she's got a lot of good information. So I think this first one, or actually this is her second one. So misreference to the subduction zone, that will be changed to Cascadia instead of Cascadian. It could have been a grammar check or spell check thing. And then this one where she makes reference to incorrect data, I was going to look into that and consider revising it. And the next one, though, she just has a disagreement on, and I put resolution question mark. And for context, she's talking about the future climate variability. A lot of the comments that we put in the natural hazards mitigation plan come directly from the OCRI report. I'm reluctant to make a change on this unless she's responding with her expert testimony from her experience, which I don't know what it is. So we tend to rely on the experts, which would be OSU's OCRI report, but wanted to, I mean, I get what she's saying, but coming from the planner who needs to rely on the expert testimony kind of perspective, I'm reluctant to just say that she disagrees. However, we will definitely put this comment matrix into our plan to show the comments that we received and the plan, the action that we took. But I wanted to get other people's thoughts on it as well.
Cindy, this is Brian. I like the fact that the above paragraph or above explanation she gave us a website to go look at and use. But this one, it is all just opinion. She writes also, it seems like intense storms made more frequent and powerful by climate change, but there's nothing to back it up. So I can appreciate the fact she took the time to write it, but unless she's going to back it up or give us some type of way to verify that, we shouldn't do anything with it.
Thanks, Brian.
I guess to that point, I'm happy to like do a Google search as we talk here and see if I can find a reference to it somewhere, but I would tend to agree that unless we have a factual basis, that it's not a reason to change our plan.
And like I said, we rely on those experts like from OSU, the OCRI, since that's their specialty in looking at climate change. A lot of times we just quote what they have in their report. So what I could do is under my note in the notes for the matrix, we'll just mention what you guys have pointed out what we all collectively have said.
One quick question on this. I mean, when,
Yeah.
when you're looking at this, there's, you could say there's primary impacts, secondary impacts, and then like tertiary. I mean, how far down the ladder do you go on potential impacts? So what she's pointing out here is if this happens and this happens and this happens, then yes, there's maybe there's some level. So it depends on how the report's being approached.
Right. Yeah, and I'll double check that the report doesn't dive into that, but I remember that specifically, that I think that's pretty much what the report says. Future climate variability does not affect the climate community's earthquake risk. I mean, she has a good point, but what others have said, we don't have that factual basis to put in there. We don't have a reference to it. Is everybody okay with that? I don't see who else. Has anybody else joined us? We still only have 6 of us. Okay. Okay, so this number 6.1, she has kind of a factual comment here. I just put out research and consider revising based on the data that she talked about up above. Same thing with number 7.
Yeah, I would concur that a little bit more research is, it's just a little bit of data. It's not much different.
Yeah, and I think if we're getting in the ballpark, we should be fine.
Yes.
And she's pulling out, and we're trying to work with the data we have as the best data we can get, and sometimes it might be a little old. Things are changing. Like when I was writing this up, there's a climate report. I was using the last climate report, and right in the middle of it, the new climate report comes out, and for Oregon, and so that I just continued to use the previous one. If I have time, I might change all that, but right now that's I started using the last reiteration. So it's similar, where we're getting close. The best data that was available to us at the time. Any other comments on 6 and 7?
No, I can't wait for us to talk about number 8.
Number 8. Well, Brian, did you want to start us off? So she's talking about the combined probability. Does she even reference, let's see here. I tried to look at these before we started. This one I don't remember looking at in great detail, but I probably should have put research and consider revising.
I would almost think, based on what she said, and I mean, it's way out of my realm. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in and say, I think she's getting into the weeds a little bit more than what we would intend to do. I don't know if it has a comment, but I think it's just going to cause more confusion than not. I mean, we could update the percentages, but beyond that, I don't think we get into the weeds on what she's saying.
Anybody else?
I don't feel like
This
I
is
have
Joe.
enough expertise to comment on anything like this. It's just like outside of
Yeah,
what I know.
go ahead, Joe.
No, I was gonna agree with Brian. I think sometimes less is more. In
Yeah.
my past, I sat with Dogami quite a bit, and they're of the same belief. I mean, you can go deep and never get past, this conversation. So I would
Yeah.
agree with Brian.
Okay, so this is a different individual. We're moving past Bridget Good. I didn't, this is, oh, okay. So this is the neighborhood association one. So she feels that we should have reached out to neighborhood associations. A little background, when we started this process, Greg Walsh, the previous emergency manager, he worked on reaching out to a lot of different organizations, agencies, other entities. I can't remember what he said about neighborhood associations. I'm sure we considered it, but it ultimately they weren't on our list. Or if they were, we didn't get response back from them. We can put some kind of comment in the matrix to just satisfy this, but didn't know if we should bring it out anywhere else. Well, there might be a section on when we talk about the entities that we invited to the table. We could also, mention it there. But what's everybody's thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess it's too bad that we didn't reach out to them. Those are groups that are very used to being contacted by the city, and so a lot of them expect that when a project happens, they'll hear about it. So I guess I can see where Suzanne's coming from. I don't know that there's anything to do about it now because I don't know how much influence a neighborhood association would have.
Right, and that could be what Greg was thinking of when we were putting everybody together. And I don't have that list right in front of me. Let's see if we had neighborhood associations on there. Anybody else?
No, I mean, I can appreciate some of the what the neighborhood associations do. I've been to those meetings as of recently, in Greg's absence and with Joe coming on board, but I don't know, I mean, how into the weeds they're gonna get with NHMP. That being said, it's always nice to bring in more players to be able to assist with giving us guidance. So, but I think we're at the tail end of this. We can't change it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we could always reach out to Suzanne and mention, have resolution that way. I mean, she has provided some comments that we could, there might be the potential to integrate or at least recognize that she's commented. And
Did you see if she gave a phone number or just email address?
it's just email.
Okay.
I don't think
I'm
there was
sure
a
I have her phone number somewhere. She is very active in the community and our planning efforts. So we know of her. I have her phone number somewhere.
I'll give her a call today. If you wouldn't mind getting me her phone number, I'll
Sure.
give her a call just to talk. I mean, I can address the CERT and Joe and I can address the CERT and the wildfire stuff, at least. So.
Okay. I'll figure out my comments there along those lines. So Fraser Wick. This plan does not account for the last 2 years of level 1, 2, 3 fire evacuations in South Salem. I will say that it may have been listed in the historic events or the reported events. So I don't know if I haven't looked at that table in a while, but I would assume that the reported events were listed. Maybe just didn't see them. And I don't know if we want to respond in any other way.
Yeah,
Like,
that again with Fraser, I can take over I can answer some of his questions. So I will either email him. I'll email him, so unless we have a phone number, I will email him today. Actually, I'll let Joe email him today.
Let's see here. Will the city Salem consider adopting wild urban? So some of these questions, it's almost the the second part. It's the implementation of the natural hazards mitigation plan into code, building code or comp plans that second question comes into play. So it's not necessarily part of, and a lot of Oregon building, a lot of jurisdictions follow Oregon building code. So, and isn't some of that changing with the latest bills that came through for wildfire? I can't remember, but we could maybe make some kind of note along those lines. Senate bill, what is it, 700? Figure out something to say.
Let me look real quick.
Because there's, I mean, I'm not, my coworker Susan's working on that whole wildfire thing, and I'm not following it entirely, but there was the wildfire map. There's the code, the code updates. And then, yeah, I think there's some hardening codes that might come into the Oregon building code.
Well, the map got pushed back because it was incorrect. So
yeah, so there's different. So maybe I mean, Brian and Joe, you probably don't. You don't have to call them today if you don't want. We could try to get the update on that, the whole wildfire bill and what will be happening.
well, and Cynthia, the new bill, I think it's 762. It doesn't affect any buildings that are currently standing. It only affects new buildings.
New, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not retroactive. So
right. I mean, you could mention that if you talk to them.
Okay. And it's only if you're in if you are not in a high extreme area, it's not going to. Maybe the people out south would be affected, but not in downtown, not the actual city proper. So it's if you're not in a high extreme class of outside the urban interface, nothing's required or related to home hardening, or even after the effective date of the new codes. So I can talk to Fraser and let him know that.
Yeah. So here's the DLCD's page for it. And if you need more information, Susan Milhauser, you could direct him or you could talk to her if you need it. 762, that's right. I incorrectly called it 700. I grabbed the comments that were out of Facebook, like the ones that, like this one. doesn't matter what input there is. You'll do whatever you want. Just thought I'd put it in there, and it was confirmed by all these other people with the thumbs up. There's going to be no action on that one, I would assume, unless somebody wants to make a comment there. And then Mark Olson also made a comment, and Elizabeth Underwood on Facebook. I don't know really. I think they were just making comments. I don't know if they were sarcastic or not, because they followed Michael's comment, but didn't know if we wanted to do any resolution on these.
The Mark Olson's comment, I guess if you can send me a snapshot of that, I can ask somebody if in the company if there is a follow-up.
Okay.
It seems commentary, so I'm not sure what to do with that, but I guess I don't want to blow it off without checking somebody first. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll send you a screenshot. Or
All right, thank you.
yeah. Do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on those two? They do just seem like their commentary. With the eye rolling. I don't know if you can see that one. Oh, that's a little too. There.
I mean, it's one of those practical comments where if the bridge does flood every time it rains, that would be a good thing to address. I mean, can anyone confirm? I don't drive the bridge in the rain very often, so I can't speculate, but.
Yeah, and that's where having, who is it, Anthony or Public Works Transportation guy,
Indeed.
would be good to have on. I could always send him, just get his thoughts on it, maybe. Okay. Sally Cook, I just put her in there because she submitted something, but there's nothing there. Okay, so Rebecca, Brian, would she go by Becky or something like that? Brian's quite familiar with this individual. She's got a lot to say. Here you can see all the way down. She had like 12 main comments. So I tried to highlight in red some of what she's trying to get, like things that we might want to focus on, because there's a lot there. So she's got a lot of some comments regarding the school system. A lot of she mentions that, so I guess in the plan we talk about how the school conducts earthquake drills regularly. She felt this was incorrect. And our school representative is not here. I could reach out to him to see if there's a counter comment to this. But in red, I put in here mitigating steps such as systematically encouraging parents to authorize robust list of persons, blah, blah, blah. You can see that in red. The last three lines, I highlighted stuff in red. So I don't know how we want to resolve this, if at all.
Well, again, I appreciate her drive to do this, but unless it's not fact, unless we have actual facts stating what she's saying, I don't think we change it.
Okay.
I mean, we could contact the district and ask if they do earthquake drills or if they have a plan to.
That's what I was thinking.
That's a quick one, but if they don't, are we prepared to request that they do, or how would we respond to that one way or the other? It's not worth spending the time on it if we're not going to do anything with the answer.
Right. Well, we could reach out to the school district and see what they say, and if it's, you know, I mean, you could make a mitigation action out of it, but the school district would need to be the primary entity on that.
This is John from PG again.
Yep.
Curious if, I mean, a lot of these are thoughts about from an emergency response perspective, like a planning perspective,
Mhm.
you know, versus maybe
Mitigation.
some of the hard mitigation work you guys are doing. I mean, without losing your comments, I don't know if there's any future planning efforts going on for Cascadia or many things she's kind of come across here. Is there a way to either to integrate that kind of just thinking like this is good information? Like if I was reaching out to somebody, it's a great information. Some of this stuff we'll forward on to kind of, and forgive the emergency manager can forgive me for this, but like into future planning efforts, we'll integrate that thinking or something to that degree, just so it's being addressed, but it's not part of the hazard mitigation plan. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And I was in a meeting with her this last month, and her drive is to get the schools more and more involved in the planning, and when it comes to CERT and earthquakes and so forth. So I do believe that with Joe on board, that if we start involving their emergency manager and kind of talking about that, I think we can kind of mitigate a lot of her concerns. I don't think a lot of the concerns need to be in the NHMP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
John, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Joe. I would
Okay.
agree. I appreciate the comment from John, actually. And Brian's absolutely correct. My intention, as soon as I get, fully up to speed, I will be reaching out to all of my counterparts, Salem Kaiser School District, various counties, OEM, and so on, discussing this very thing and other things. Putting together drills, working with our CERT teams, and so on. So, once I meet Becky, hopefully we can do just that. So.
Great. And like John was saying, that a lot of her comments are more from the emergency management response and not so much of the mitigation. And it might speed up some of the rest of our review of her comments because of that. And we could, yeah, I think it's gonna be helpful to have Joe reaching out to them. Joe, I don't know if you Brian probably sent you her full comment sheet that you can work from.
Yeah, I have it. I have it. And I would agree. I think that, unless others disagree, we can speed it up because there's a lot to review, and we can handle that.
Yeah. I'll just skim. I'm going to skim some of these just to see if there is. So the second one, the section should describe also the activities and contributions of the CERT volunteers throughout Salem. And, maybe that could be a valid thing to do. I can't remember what is in the risk assessment regarding CERT, but it wouldn't hurt to have a little blurb in there. That might satisfy her there. Let's see where there are. And then this other highlighted sections where there are certain cash local city, there will be a source of information for the city. That's kind of like the preparedness and emergency management response. there'll be, where there are certain cache locations across the city, there will be nucleus of people who can report. I feel like some of her comments here also tie into the mitigation action regarding the resiliency hubs that Austin and Heather were talking about, and that is one of our mitigation actions. And yeah, that's just like I felt like there was a tie there, but I don't know if it's worth really talking about. I could actually put it in the matrix. I could put it under the comment section. That mitigation action number, blah blah blah, talks to resilience hubs, and that there might be some collaboration with the CERT team.
I mean, how hard would it be to integrate CERT into that action?
It might not be too hard.
It could just be like in coordination with CERT, or CERT could be a supporting organization, or specifically call out them as a partner.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, partner. Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that, Austin. Okay.
It does seem like they would be a valuable resource in the creation of those. So,
Okay, I'll do that. See number 17. I didn't highlight anything in red. I don't think I could find anything that was substantial, had any substance. Oh, it's more of like in the aftermath. So response in the aftermath. It will be time to assess the adequacy of the attention, effort, and resources the city does or does not give to the CERT program. She's not happy with how the CERT program is
No,
being.
and again, when we were in a meeting the other day, she was really harping, it's the right terminology. She was really stressed out about us not issuing badges to the members. And so with COVID and everything else, we kind of stopped doing that because we didn't have in-person meetings. So for 2.5 years, we didn't do any badges. And so then now we're past COVID and we didn't have an emergency manager besides myself.
Right.
And so now that I feel like I think they kind of felt like I was putting them off. But we're at the point where we can move forward with it, but it's a process. Joe can't hit the ground running in 5 days. It's a process. So
Come on, Joe. I thought you could get up and running in 5 days. Just joking.
I can do some things. Yeah. To go back though to the earlier comment and to tie into this, my plan is obviously to leverage the CERT teams and their expertise and include them, right? I mean, as much as we're able to do. So I can I can work on that. It's a matter of getting there. So we'll get it handled.
Yeah. This number 4, and we don't have a transportation staff member here, but I feel like this is directed towards the transportation system. The last sentence is highlighted about conduct a trade-off analysis to determine whether prioritizing Madrona debris removal rather than moving to the Hanson Acacia route. I don't know how to say that. So I might just this might be just something to it's not something I think we can integrate into the natural hazard mitigation plan. It's too detailed, but maybe sending this on to the transportation planner department or whoever's, public works, whoever's doing that review.
I do think broadly, though, it speaks to a potential action that if we're not integrating it into this plan could be considered for the future, which is to identify which priority transit routes or arterials and collectors are vulnerable to something like landslide hazard or liquefaction. And then at least we would have a complete list, because this particular one, me reading between the lines, I say, oh, Rebecca Beeman lives in South Salem and knows this area well. I
Mhm.
wonder about West Salem. So, understanding where those routes are and what potential hazards exist there specifically, then you could look at which ones are, or which ones could be upgraded in order to, mitigate.
Yeah, but would that be, I mean, you'd have an overarching action in the plan, but then you'd get into that detail at the, when you're working on that analysis.
Yeah, so, like I said, I don't know that it goes in this plan, but the point is there, I think,
Yeah.
or I see the value in thinking about which routes we need to upgrade.
Yeah.
But again, without their staff, hard to know. Maybe they already have that. Maybe I
Right.
just don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll send that on to them. I will be refining our comments in here. I'll run that by everybody once it's done. Let's see here. Landslides fails to address the intersection of emergency routes and landslides. I'd have to look at that section. I mean, he's probably right. Let's see what else planning. 2 routes, South River Road and Madrona Avenue, west of Liberty Street. I could run that by transportation and, I mean, if it seems like it's a valid concern, we could always just highlight that as an example in the risk assessment. Number 20, she had some good comments. I know I didn't put a table of contents or a list of figures or tables that will go in the end. Just was trying to get it done and out. So it did not have one. My apologies, but it will be added. So put that in there. This was a good one for water. This for the water supply. It fails to address risk mitigation steps to ensure the supply of water all the way to the homes and businesses in the event of widespread infrastructure failure. I mean, I think the natural hazard mitigation plan is focusing on your main infrastructure. But I don't know if it's, I mean, we can make a statement that it's going to affect all the way down to homes and businesses. We know that. But I don't know how much time we want to spend on it, or it's more detailed.
Can I just throw a thought in here? It's Joe.
Yep.
So on a lot of these, it would seem to me, again, as the new guy, we're also working on our updating our emergency management plan, right?
Mhm.
So some of these things, if there were a way to maybe, make a note, ask what have you, in some cases, XYZ will fall to the emergency management plan, right?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So, which is the case in a lot of these. Everything's different. No two situations are the same. We have our mitigation plan, right? That's to mitigate.
Yep.
But then we go into activation. We're looking at a different plan, right? So that's what I would suggest.
Okay. This one's about wildfire. She's getting into the response. This is like hazards after a major hazard event. It's just getting too much into it. So wildfire originated from human activity in the aftermath of an earthquake. And this is probably falls into that emergency management plan or another plan, or I mean, we could always make a comment under, say, earthquake, that there's this potential that other things might happen after, when you have a major disaster, your water supply is going to be affected. If it doesn't say it already, I'm sure it says some of it. So I don't know how much we want to dive into that one.
On some of that stuff, I mean, we know there's going to be a public health emergency that is following an earthquake. So it
Right.
kind of falls within all those other categories that
Yep.
need to be addressed through planning, right? Future planning.
Yep. Yeah, and the same thing with the vulnerability of water and sewer lines all the way to people's houses. In the aftermath of an earthquake. So I'm going to move on from there. Earthquake, she's talking about, it's almost not impacting. I think I'm going to pass over that one, number 25 or number 11. Like you said, we know that there's going to be everything. It's going to be a major deal if we have an earthquake. A lot of things are going to get impacted. Let's see, and then the last one.
I think 25 falls to the mitigation, or not to the action plan. It's the city doesn't have the money to build a seismically resilient water and sewer system. It's not a realistic goal. And so the response, understanding that, is what matters. So, having resiliency hubs where people could come pick up clean water is one solution. I mean, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I think that goes to response.
Thanks. And then the last one. I think the resiliency hubs can tie in here. And we could maybe comment a couple, talk about the mitigation action for resiliency hubs. Any other comments on that? I didn't read it, but hopefully
On
you can.
12, well, the problem is during a earthquake, you're not going to know where to move people until
Right.
after you start assessing structures and assessing locations. So it's going to take a while for, especially during Lake Cascadia, for any help to arrive. So
Right.
it's not going to be a fast process, and it's going to take not just us, but the federal side to assist us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other comments? Okay. I might run some of these by Brian and Joe just to see when our comments for which ones we can, basically addressing, it's just a different plan addresses them, like the emergency plan. I can do that offline. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and Joe and Brian have provided edits, is the plan maintenance. FEMA wants to know how we're going to manage this plan after they approve it, and for the next 5 years. They want to know the who, like who's going to be the convener, when, is it going to be annually or semi-annual meetings? What aspects are going to be reviewed, such as the mitigation action status, and how are we going to continue public involvement? And I had sent out that one section 4 on plan implementation. I've got the copy that Brian and Joe looked at. Oops, it's not. It's kind of being weird. So Brian and Joe, I don't know if you want to talk about your edits. I know, I'm assuming the emergency manager will be the person who is going to be that main person that will be managing this plan.
I just went through.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Joe.
No, go ahead. No, I was just gonna simply say, I've gone through it, and I know Brian has too. I will be the convener as it stands. I'll make sure that the meetings happen, the appropriate folks from the various departments are on that. It's a semi-annual for me. Meet twice a year at least, and make sure we're dialed in. So I'll turn it over to Brian for his comments.
Well, what Joe and I did is we grabbed this emergency management plan, and we looked at all the players on there, and that's how we kind of adjusted the coordinated body. But
Okay.
beyond that, we went through and we looked at timeline wise, and we also just adjusted some grammar and so forth in there. There wasn't some wholesale changes in there.
Yeah. Okay. And I didn't think there would be. I just wanted to make sure, okay, it's going to be Joe, the emergency manager, whoever, assuming Joe, we just brought him in, but hopefully he'll still be here in 5 years. And whether it's going to be annually, semi-annually. And then let's see, your members, I'm glad you updated those. And then, you're going to be reviewing the mitigation actions status. And then let's see here, implementation.
Was Portland General Electric on that list?
Salem Electric. No, but we can put them on there.
I mean, I think that as you guys are doing mitigation work, I'll be curious how you'll engage PGE and some of your work efforts. Everything from, from a planning perspective, certainly opportunities to engage, but even as actually we're talking, I'm not saying you have this in your plan, but you plan to widen a road, right? Or raise a road to get it out of floodplain. And that's one of your projects that obviously has downstream impacts on pole replacements and those type of things. So
So I have a quick question, kind of piggybacking on that comment. In addition to Portland General Electric, I just had a thought. So in my last role, I worked heavily during the wildfires with Northwest Natural Gas. My question is, does Public Works handle that? I mean, we're adding the electric companies, the utilities. I know Northwest Natural was huge in some of the efforts on shutdowns because, as I'm sure most of you are aware, normally the gas is the last thing turned back on. So that was more of a question than anything.
I think they were added as they're probably one of our committee stakeholders for this committee. I don't know if they ever showed up. I don't think they
I
did.
just met with their emergency manager actually. So, I mean, engaging Northwest Natural makes a lot of sense for the work we're talking about. And I could reach out to their emergency manager and give them a heads up on it. That's at all helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Would it be helpful? I mean, if there is, to see if it's on here. I mean, Randy's been such a big part of this. I don't know if Chariots wants to be part of on this as well, or if it's necessary. We could always have a disclaimer, other agencies.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly happy to be added by name. That's kind of however you'd like to handle that.
We can make a blanket statement in there, other relevant and appropriate agencies.
I have a quick comment about, I guess, organizational structure in that list. So planning is part of community development, and community development and urban development are one department now. So those three could potentially be combined into community and urban development. There's a chance we'll get a new name as a department, but for now, that's what we're called.
So we would take out that.
Yeah. And the urban development one.
And Cynthia, I mean, and you can keep us under the miscellaneous, but I'd like to bid for a separate tab, or consider a separate tab, more inclusive than just Chariots, such as transportation. That would include your transit agencies, but there's other non-emergent medical transport. There's other agencies that could be included under a transportation tab.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, we'll figure out how to put that in there. Yeah, just I think about all the groups and organizations for this whole planning process, and the voice that they've had in this. It might be worth having just this other list of potential agencies and organizations that participate, whether it's a school district or transportation agencies or university, local universities or what is it? Nonprofits for socially vulnerable and underrepresented. But we'll think
Such
about
as
that.
like partnering agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else. I think we got it. Oh yeah, the meeting semi-annual basis, we'll, reviewing existing action items, to determine appropriateness for funding, education and train new members. Let's see here. I was gonna, wasn't there a section on keeping public engaged? Where is that? Continued public involvement. I didn't know if we wanted to update. The city will post copies of the plan. Okay, that makes sense. Place articles in local newspaper. I think we probably want to add others, more up to date, whether it's social media or website information. And we might want to expand this list here. Just to bring it up to current times.
That makes sense.
And how would you word that? I'll just do a blanket thing here. That needs to be filled in. I remember early on we were talking about how the utility bills, they're not sending things out in the mail anymore. So they're not getting paper. I don't know how if the utility bills are sending out electronic newsletters. They might be. So this might need to be reworded, newsletters. Oh, we got the city website. Okay. Okay. That's probably, if I have anything else, I will talk to Brian and Joe.
So
Yep, go ahead.
yeah, so I'm going back to that list. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, sure. I'm glad you are. Which list?
So the one up higher, the departments and such.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
So I should have also said there's a new department called what is it? Community services. And so that includes parks, and I'm assuming parks is a part of this.
I was wondering where the community services.
Yes, we should have
Okay,
that.
because I get confused. Okay.
Yeah, brand new.
Yeah, on that list, it's interesting. There's kind of your participants, and then there are stakeholders. Section. And maybe you guys already said this. It's like there's almost like a split group. Like
Yeah.
here are the people who were contributors, and then there's the stakeholders list, which would include like Northwest Natural and.
Yeah, maybe separate those out. Well, and it does have that, it starts out following jurisdictions, agencies, and or organizations. And yeah, so we'll expand this a little bit more and let's see, broad use. So then it says, coordinating body will engage additional stakeholders and other relevant hazard mitigation organizations. So we'll expand this to show who we've included and who we who we can include in the future for review in the next 5 years. I think Brian, you wanted this alphabetized. We can do that. Okay, anything else? Okay, so our next steps, we have a meeting in July. I'm reserving that. I'm sure there's gonna be some stuff I need to wrap up before we submit the plan to Oregon Department of Emergency Management. So there'll be some, I might send out emails between now and then if I have specific questions that need answering sooner. Yeah, so other than that, you guys, I'll stop sharing. We can sign off early. Thanks everybody for participating today.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Mhm.
I'm available if you need anything at all.
Okay.
And so is Joe.
Yeah, I'll be sending you guys some stuff.
All right.
Thanks again.
Uh-huh.
Bye.